You've learned about the many different kinds of weather available to you as a pilot. Current weather, forecasts, radar data, synoptic charts, and so on. But where exactly do you find all that information? Well, as you know, one source is through the FAA's Direct User Access Terminal Service, or DUATS, on your computer. You can access DUAT directly through a modem or on the internet. Ask your instructor for information on how to sign up and get the software. You'll be asked a few simple questions, like your pilot certificate number. Yes, even a student pilot has a number. Then with an access code and your own personal password, you'll be in business. Now, once you're signed onto the system, the menus will lead you through the briefing process. With the proliferation of personal computers, more and more pilots are discovering the convenience of the DUAT system. But there are still a vast number of pilots who still get their weather from a trained flight service station briefer over the telephone. And this system is interactivity at its best. First, you give the briefer all the information about your flight in a standardized format. Then the briefer may ask you questions to make sure that he or she has the complete data. You get your weather briefing in a standardized format, which makes it a whole lot easier to take notes, and then you can ask questions about any items you'd like discussed in more detail. So let's look at how to get the flight service briefing. First, because flight service stations are few in number, it's rare these days to go and get a briefing in person. The most common way to get a weather briefing is to call, either a local number if it's available, or the national toll-free number 1-800-WEATHER-BRIEF, WXBRIEF. When you call, there's certain information you need to tell the briefer so the briefer can give you the best briefing possible. Start out by telling the briefer that you're a pilot, because other people do call for weather information, farmers and commercial fishermen among them, and the briefer gives non-pilots different information. Now, because the flight service station keeps track of the briefings, to know who's received them, give either your aircraft identification or your name. It's also important to tell the briefer that you intend to fly VFR only. Now, after you get your instrument rating, you could tell the briefer then that you could fly IFR, but it makes a difference in what kind of weather is significant to you. Also tell the briefer your intended route, your destination airport, your type of aircraft, your departure time, and your estimated time en route, your ETE. All of those items affect what kind of weather is significant for you, your aircraft, and your planned flight. Now, there are different kinds of briefings you could ask for. A standard briefing is the kind of briefing that you would request if you want to get a complete weather briefing for your planned flight. Now, this assumes that you've not gotten any preliminary weather information. For instance, you've not watched the Weather Channel or listened to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's radio broadcasts. When you've not received any preliminary weather, you should request a standard briefing. Since it's a good idea to write down all of the weather information so you can refer to it later, you should be ready to copy it in the standard format. The briefer will give you your weather in sections, so write down these headings in advance. First of all, adverse conditions, including SIGMETs and AirMets. And if VFR flight is not recommended, they'll tell you right then. The synoptic situation, that's the big picture, the location and movements of fronts and pressure systems. Next, the current weather, then pilot reports, then forecasts, both en route and for your destination airport, winds aloft, and notices to airmen or NOTAMs. And if you miss something, because sometimes they do get on a roll and spew it out quickly, don't hesitate to ask the briefer to repeat it. Now, if you've already received some weather information, instead of a standard briefing, you could ask instead for an abbreviated briefing. An abbreviated briefing is what you request to, as they say in the biz, supplement mass disseminated data or update a previous weather briefing. Supplementing mass disseminated data? What that means is things like the Weather Channel, weather radio broadcasts, stuff like that. An abbreviated briefing is for use when you already have a pretty good picture of what the weather's going to be, but you need some specific details. The abbreviated briefing is also good if you got a good briefing earlier and now just want an update on a couple of points. An outlook briefing, the third type of briefing, is the kind of briefing you should ask for if your flight is going to be 6 or more hours in the future. They don't have a detailed picture of what the weather's going to look like 6 hours from now. They'll give you a general outlook to give you a general idea of what's likely to happen. This lets you make plans, maybe even cancel a flight if the outlook is for bad weather. But if the outlook is good, you can get a standard briefing with more detail closer to your departure time. So now you can let your fingers do the walking on your phone keypad or even on your computer keyboard to get your own personalized weather briefing.